Hi, everyone, and welcome to Capricorn, Capricorn episode of oh my Astro Soup. My brain. My excuse is I've been working really hard on this episode, really because there's only going to be one Capricorn episode, and this is kind of a teaser, a little bit ahead of schedule. But on January the 5th, I'll be doing a live episode where we cover the energies of 2026. So we have to kind of compress everything Capricornian into one episode, which means we'll be mostly talking about what's in the bowl, mostly talking about that. And so, but of course, we cannot begin without having a little bit of fun. And so, which is kind of interesting because we are talking Capricorn and it's not necessarily the sign that astrologers associate with fun. They associate mostly with responsibility. Uh, and yeah, and its ruler Saturn is often a bit of a wet blanket when it comes to fun. But then in Saturn's defense, his idea of fun is um, accomplishing things and getting laurels and victories and accomplishments and getting status. That's its idea of fun. Do you agree? Oh,
I
producer of mine.
I love that. I've never really had thought of it that way, but yeah, I always think every Capricorn I know really, yeah, they like to work hard, and I never thought about it, but it's like when you hit different achievements, I guess that is the fun for that. I know, I think in Saturnian world, because Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, is it's the mastery that we get after hard work that is the enjoyment kind of thing. So.
Well, satisfaction. Satisfaction. I don't mean that they don't know how to have fun. Um, but then I
Mhm.
don't have a lot of Capricorns in my life, so I can't really speak to that. Well, that's not true. I have to,
They're
but I'm not going to tell secrets about this particular Capricorn.
they're very grounding, which I think is nice. I mean, not everything in life is about fun, maybe.
Well, and Marlene just shared that she has a Capricorn moon and she can be pretty stodgy. Well, there you go. So, it's interesting because let's see your earrings because I didn't get a really good look at them.
They have Saturn in the middle of them, and so I
I
wore them for
see that.
Capricorn.
Oh, so no, that's why I didn't wear my Capricorn earrings because we would have been copying each other. I chose these because, and not thinking that they probably don't show up that well because they're this pretty ice cold blue, more winter than maybe Capricorn, but also, you know, I don't know what logic is there in I don't think there is any logic in this at all. Although
Maybe
I
they're
am
winter
dressed very
solstice.
conservatively. I'm wearing black.
That's true. I wore my evergreen for the Capricorn, like, evergreen and
Isn't that
black.
nice? You wore a different color. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah,
I
and
never thought
your
about
earrings
ever.
seem very solstice. Like the solstice is the
Yeah.
first day of Capricorn.
I guess my intuition had a plan, even though the rest of me did not. Well, and I never thought about how evergreens are very Capricornian.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
I live in a place where there are a lot of evergreens. And they tied us over the winter because all the deciduous trees have absolutely no leaves on them. And so, in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, when it hits this, well, and it was really cold, like a couple of days ago, it was like minus 33 Celsius with the wind chill.
Hmm.
It's warmer today, but when you look outside, the only green you're going to see is are all the fir trees and evergreen trees. One of the interesting things, though, about Capricorn it is about goals. Capricorn cannot imagine going through life without a set of goals. They're the people that invented the 5-year plan or the 10-year plan. Well, probably in concert with Virgos. uh, I'm sure Tauruses didn't take part only because, they're pretty sure that the plan they made 20 years ago is still working. Uh, so I hope I don't get any angry text messages from Taurus people. Anyway, so I thought I just wanted to ask Andy if you've got any upcoming goals. Like, have you thought about as we enter Capricorn season, what goals you might have?
Well, I have to tell you, I'm marrying a Capricorn moon, and what's fun for him is to meet every night. We meet every night from 10:30 to 11:30 to have a goals and strategic planning meeting, and we do that every night of our lives. So that's fun for him. And so we talk business late at night.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think some of the goals for us are to, get astrological remediation into the hands of working astrologers everywhere so that they can have remedies and, to probably keep working at Kepler and things like that. Obviously, to work with you is a goal. Do you have any goals, Leslie?
um, well, one of my more immediate goals is to move off Zoom onto a platform that that makes it easier to go live on other platforms because Zoom is not always. I shouldn't say Zoom has been a really wonderful place for me to start, but a lot of my goals are connected to what comes next for the podcast and how and personal goals because I do like to master things. I don't like to leave anything having not given it my very best. And what are my other goals? Well, to continue working on my mystery novel. Um, my other part of my said, and my goal for next year is to lighten up.
Do you think that Capricorn season we have the New Year's Eve and people always set goals for the year under that Capricorn
Well,
energy?
I can understand setting goals, and I think it would be better if we called them setting goals because I find it interesting that making resolutions about changing things when, well, at least, in this part of the world, it might work better in the southern hemisphere, um, where they're still working with a lot of light. Whereas, here, winter is like a gestation period. And so to resolve changes in your behavior while there's still mostly darkness, at least where I live, that can be a very interesting experience. And for me, the new year really is the spring equinox when everything starts to come alive. That's what, in my mind, that's when you begin. But everybody has different opinions about when's a good time to do anything, I guess. But the wholesale welcome in the new year as an opportunity to live life differently. But I don't necessarily think you need to set resolutions. But then you're talking to somebody who never does. Because I just don't feel like the energy supports it for me. I can't really speak for other people. She said as she bangs her laptop and everything wiggles a little. Hey, maybe the ways. As she talks about change. So that's kind of a long answer to a very short question. Short question. So, as always, I like to give you a little bit of sense of what's coming up in this episode, and like I already said, this is going to be a lot about what's in the bowl. And it is a very active month. At first, I didn't think so until I had a closer look at my ephemeris. And of course, what's in ephemeris for those of us who are not astrologers, it's that happy little um, compendium of where all the planets are And some of them you can get in 1 year increments, and some of them you get in 100-year increments. And it will show you exactly where the planets are every day of that particular century. So it's something that astrologers just, it makes our little hearts go pitter patter when we get to open one of those up and look something up, because for us it's a tapping into knowledge. So yes, and I lost my train of thought.
Here's my
And
phone.
there's an ephemera so you can see what it looks like. It reminded me, I once worked in a tea room and did readings, and the woman that ran the place said after a client left, she complained that you looked in a book, and it was an ephemeris. And so I picked it up and I opened it up and I showed it to the owner of the uh, of the tea room and said, I don't think she could read this. And I looked at it and went, yeah, I don't think so either. Um, anyway, they're complex things, and you do need to have at least a basic understanding of astrology to be able to read them. And I got off track again. This is, yeah, with all the stuff we have to do, not a good idea. So the other teaser, I think I pretty much covered it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go down another rabbit hole. And Andy already has the job today of making sure that I don't get lost.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so onward and upward to the sun moving into Capricorn. That's what's in the bowl. That's the major initial event. And of course, every time the sun moves into a new sign, it's what we call an ingress, and it sets an energy pattern for the next for the trip through that particular sign. You can often think it as like going for a ride in a neighborhood. So one of the things I like to do is to give you an idea of exactly what energies are going on so you can get some sense of how to use them. So interestingly enough, we begin this particular uh, trip through Capricorn, because of course it's not the same every year, with the sun and Mars. Where did I put my happy little cards? Okay. So the sun and Mars are cozying up to each other. And what do we got? That one. One of these days I will get them more organized. Okay. So we have two fire and an earth. So we've got sun. To start out, we've got that. A lot of drive there. A lot of drive.
What
Anxious
is
to get
that?
the.
Sun, Mars, and what is it?
Oh, in the middle is the sign of Capricorn.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So we see, and green is Earth. Earth, if you is dense. It's the densest of the elements. Fire is not at all dense. So there's a lot of energy trying to get focused on a particular objective. But when we're talking about an ingress and the energy is new, it's kind of like, oh, wow, here we are. And they're both in very early degrees. So, and the sun isn't going to completely cozy up to Mars for about 10 days. So there's going to be this urgency, this push, a call to action. And often during this kind of phase, there's a push to find a new goal, which is why Andy and I were talking about goals. So don't be surprised if suddenly you think, well, I've had this thing, because a goal is more concrete than an inspiration. So a goal is something I've decided to concretely pursue. And of course, what's Capricorn about? It's about structure. It's about things that are concrete. It's about reality. So we are about to get a strong dose of reality. just after that new moon in Sag with all that uplifting, bouncy energy, it's suddenly it may or may not feel like you're crashing to earth. The response can be, well, I just have to get moving because I've got stuff to do. And of course, it's always interesting because this happens for the majority of us right around the holidays, right around Christmas. And this doesn't happen every year. So there's a huge influx of urgent energy right now. Well, not right now, as we move into Capricorn. So that's important to keep in mind. Now, the other interesting thing about Capricorn is that it likes measured action. So there can be something of a struggle here. So you might have this huge infusion of energy and be looking around for a place to focus it on, and it's a time of well, like this energy really does often represent how Christmas can feel, how the holiday season can feel. Like I'm running around and I've got so many things to do, and I'm not sure I'm going to get them all done. And in the middle of all of this, you're going to feel like I need to focus on something new, because an ingress is a new energy. It's an initiation point. It's the beginning of a cycle, the cycle of the sun moving through Capricorn. And conjunct Mars, again, there's that urgency, there's that push. And yet, energetically, we are going to feel this desire to lock things down. Capricorn likes certainty. It and Cancer share something in common. They like certainty. They're looking for security and safety, just in different ways. But you've got all this fire energy that says to hell with that, to hell with that. So, so we want to. Some part of us wants to stick to what we know, to what's tried and true. Meanwhile, there's this urge because, of course, the moon is also in Capricorn, but it's playing around with Jupiter. So the need to expand is still there. The key is take Mars as your, if you want to, your North Star, if you like, in the sense that Mars in Capricorn can act in a more measured way. So the more, if you try to push too much right now, this is all kinds of situations. And the other thing, of course, is that, yeah, Capricorn can be very judgmental in the sense that it may or may not be happy with things that feel like they're out of control. And Mars can kind of push you in that direction. And then we're coming off that Sag new moon, which is so the let's party versus let's get down to brass tacks is going to be a bit of an ongoing struggle for the first few days. And so this leads us to talking about Christmas because, oh, I want to say also, so there's a deeply sensitive energy also going on because Saturn's in Pisces. Sorry, I'm using some astrology, but where Saturn is tells us a lot about how the Capricorn energy is going to be expressed. So no wonder, as as the sun moves into Capricorn, there's this need for there to be something predictable. And the whole energy of 2025 has been about a lack of predictability. And we might as well get used to it because 2026 is going to be similar. And when I say a lack of predictability, I don't I don't mean chaos reigns supreme. What I mean is that we sometimes forget that life continues to change all the time. The key is how do you use these energies in a way that are functional for you, that produce something that, whether it's tangible or intangible, doesn't matter. Some of the energies we're dealing with is trying to balance the inner and the outer. recognize, because Capricorn is very outwardly focused. It doesn't always make time for inner stuff. And that's just it as a sign. And of course, if you know anything about astrology or anything about your chart, you know that all signs exist in everyone's birth chart. It just depends on how strong a signature Capricorn has for you. And so when we're talking about the general energies and how they're flowing, so it's going to feel like 1 minute, oh yeah, I can climb Mount Everest, and the next minute is why am I doing that? So the balance between the urge to do something versus the need to take a look to see what it is you think what it is calling to you, and is it time to manifest that, or is it time to honor that's calling to you, and you may um, begin a plan or set a goal, because setting a goal is not the same as accomplishing it. There's always an initiation point, and that's what Capricorn, Sun moving into Capricorn, is it can be about. It can be about setting a goal, not necessarily about accomplishing it immediately. Although Mars can often make us think we can do anything we set our mind to within the next 48 hours. It's a bit of a challenge. So, any comments about that?
Yeah, I love all that. I mean, I think that's so helpful. I mean, to think about it's kind of like with Capricorn ruling the knees, you'd think like it's where are you putting your foot down in life and deciding to, build about better mousetrap. I mean, it just makes me think of this goal setting energy as being in different people's charts in different houses. And so I think that would be something that listeners can, and by the way, I love when you use astrology in the show. I know you have your heart set on new astrologers, but as a seasoned astrologer, I
There's
love
few
your
people
astrology.
interested in astrology.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think like just, wherever you're looking at the house where Capricorn is and saying, can I set goals in this area of life would be something.
Yeah, and you may, and make sure that because it's going to be a different area of life that calls to everyone. I mean, if after all, if it worked the same for everybody, we'd all be doing the same thing at the same time in the same way, which is simply not how humans function. And so the desire to lock things down can often be the Capricorn knee-jerk reaction to this is moving too fast. I need to have a clearer picture, right? It's very practical. Um, but there is an element of deep sensitivity that's going on at the same time as this pushy stuff. So people are going to need to really realize that the energy can be quite charged right now. And you could go from 1 minute to really wanting to drive over people and an effort to get to where you want to go, and then feel, oh my God, and then resist if you feel like someone wants to do that to you. So there's some more stuff when we get to more about what's in the bowl that factor into this. So I'm just gonna look at my um
Can I make
so
a
I was
comment quick? Oh, sorry.
what were you gonna say?
Oh, just that I love that you're bringing up the Saturn and Pisces element and that maybe we could build structures that honor the deep sensitivity of mankind, somehow like using the Capricorn to build structures that allow for a good vibe and things like that.
Course, one of the challenges we've had over with Saturn and Pisces over the last 2.5 years is that, you know, Pisces is the world of all possibilities, and sometimes it's hard to tell what's a vision and what's a fantasy, right?
Mhm.
And so there's always a time and the space of being with something and letting it reveal itself to you. Before, when we use that energy properly, you allow the vision to emerge, and then you make a plan, and then you start the goal centering, because some parts of it's like the mystery novel I'm working on. It just kind of dropped into my lap, dropped into my consciousness, and now comes the structuring part. And then, pieces and parts float for me, floating in and going, well, maybe they're meant to be part of another book. I don't know. be part of this one. So that's very much what it's like. So, and thank you for bringing that up, because one of the best ways to deal with this is just to let information flow in, whether it's sensory information, emotional information, factual information, and just let it percolate for a bit. But Sun Mars isn't always interested in doing that. So there's always that need to not so much balance, because balance is somewhat elusive. Um, just kind of begin to weave them together to, try to be with both aspects instead of trying to pick, one end of the teeter-totter versus the other end of the teeter-totter. Okay, so I always do a color card. So we're going to do a color card for the entire trip through Capricorn.
I hope it's castor brown, the color of Capricorn. The ancients would say castor or Capricorn is the brown of a beaver's tail.
Did not know that. Thanks for sharing.
I didn't have anything in brown to wear because I don't have any earth in my chart and I don't wear brown.
Well, I only have one Earth, and that's Saturn and Virgo.
Mhm.
And I'm not fond of brown.
Yeah.
A warm shade of brown.
Brown's a buzzkill. Sorry to the Capricorns.
Well, that's why I sometimes pick green. Except, I don't know, I decided to wear black today, which is another color.
Black
So,
is a really good Capricorn color. That's one of the like regal black tones is one of the things they give to it as well.
well, no, I don't think it's that one. Honestly, the cards are torturing me today. That's all I can say. Normally, they're much. Okay,
Well,
well,
torture
fine.
is very Capricorn. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, are you sure that's the one you want? Well, I don't know. I think Capricorns will rather like this one, gold.
Oh, some people say
And
Capricorn is jewel tone.
attract abundance. So I just want to say, when it says attract abundance, there's all kinds of abundance. There's, the abundance of having wonderful people in your life, the abundance of knowing what your passions are, the abundance of listening to all those crazy ideas in your head and playing with them. That's abundance. Like, of course, you're talking to someone who has a lot of air in their chart. And so for me, if I don't have any ideas, then I feel like, that's when I feel really stodgy, is when there's nothing going on. And you'll notice that, I mean, there is a book that goes with this deck of cards. It's The Secret Language of Color Cards by Ina Siegel. But I don't read it because I think that everybody should just think about this or absorb this color in some way, shape, or form and take some time later just to see how you feel about it. Any ideas that come up with it. If you had any resistance to it when I showed it to you. And like I said, I was having some fun with the cards today because I was trying to pick ones because they weren't cooperating. So the other card that came with this, because I promised to pick an oracle card, it's called The Door. And it looks very Capricornian, actually, the card itself.
Back off.
And it means change. Shona, can you put yourself on mute, please? There we go. So, yeah, I thought it was interesting because it changes in a card an energy that you normally associate with Capricorn. But the interesting thing is it shows a door. And on the other side of that door is a tree. And trees are very Capricorn to me. I don't know why. Maybe because they grow so high above the ground. But there's just something about it. And uh, if we're going to make change in our lives, concrete, positive change, Saturn has got to be involved. And so, that's one of the other goals you could be setting for yourself right now is where in your life would you like to see change? And what does that mean to you? Sometimes the word change means chaos to people, and so they resist it. And Capricorn has a habit of thinking that if I built it before, it'll be fine for the rest of time. And nothing, as we know from uh, archaeology, nothing lasts all the forever. But then I don't even know what forever is. And of course, part of me just said inside my head, why did you say? And I don't know why I said it. So there you go. Okay, so next on our agenda, tips and tricks. And of course, I wrote them down because I wanted to give people some idea of things that you could do just to help you if you feel like your circuits are on overload or you're about to. I don't like to use the word overreact, but often we do only because we're out of touch with ourselves. And some part of our reaction to things comes from a need to find some kind of, what's the word? To address whatever, oh, for God's sakes, I can't think of the word. Whatever feels incongruous to us, whatever doesn't feel like it's working, whatever is, it's a way of relieving stress. Overreaction's really a way of relieving stress. And it happens when we just keep going, keep going, keep going, and we don't pay attention to the reactions either from our physical selves, our emotional selves, our intellectual selves, or our spiritual selves. Something saying, now take a breath, take a breath. So, one of the things I wanted to do, and I'm just going to read it because I don't remember exactly what I wrote. So, take time each day as you start your day to count to 10. It allows you to be present in the moment of waking up. Coming to, and maybe I'm just talking about me. Waking up is never, I like waking up. I just like to wake up for a while, for quite a while sometimes. Um, and it's an interesting period of the day because your brain is in a natural meditative state when you wake up. It's on a brainwave pattern, and that's when a lot of insights and things can come to you. I know when I worked as a journalist, and I'd be waking up on Friday morning knowing I had major deadlines to meet. And I'd gotten hung up on writing a piece I was writing for one of the weekend editions. And I used to write mostly about families and relationships and stuff like that, growth. Uh, where I got stuck with suddenly, I wake up in the morning and I know exactly where I was going to start because I used to write around in the middle before the beginning became obvious to me. So that space in the morning, so if you take time to count to 10, you're going to be present for that energy and be present for the energy of the day. We sometimes forget we're in relationship to everything around us. And as much as we might like to think so, we're not in control of everything. So take time to do that and then breathe. Just breathe and remember that you're alive, that you're a human being. I once heard that when I was still working at the newspaper, heard this woman do a workshop. Her name was Sandy Queen. Love her name. Um, and she had a sweatshirt and a saying that was perfect for Capricorn. You're a human being, not a human doing. Because human doing is very Capricornian. I mean, and of course, we can't sit around and do nothing, but we need to be able to see ourselves as separate from the things that we do, that our basic essence isn't just about what we do. Um, and then, if you, this is all of this is to help you stay connected to yourself, and also to not overstimulate your nervous system 2 seconds after you wake up. This is why I hate alarm clocks. Always have, probably always will. So next, you can, and I saw I can't remember the guy's name. I've been addicted to reels on Facebook lately, but every once in a while you learn something that's important. I go there because I like to laugh. But this technique is you simply, now see if I can put your hands on your earlobes and you pull down at least an inch, and you do that 20 times, and this will calm your nervous system down. Calm down your vagus nerve, which is the one that really runs your nervous system.
What if we fall asleep? I'm just kidding.
Well, I suppose then maybe you should do it while you're sitting up.
I'll pull up on my ears if that happens.
Um, the other thing is to pay close attention to how you respond to what's happening to you. Because sometimes we get a really good sense of where we're really at by just going downstairs, walking into the kitchen, and say we see a dirty glass, and that irritates us. Well, it's not about the dirty glass. It's we're already on high alert for the day. Somewhere in our consciousness, we've already decided what kind of a day this is going to be. This is really important and during this particular cycle because you can be easily triggered and less than empathetic. Very brass tacks, Venus and Capricorn, because Venus moves into Capricorn the day before Christmas. It might feel like things are softer, but Capricorn always has a hard edge to it. And that's just the way that it is, because you know what? Capricorn is really good at making hard decisions. And there are times in life where we all have to make hard decisions. And you may find yourself on dangerous ground if your circuits get overloaded in terms of how you might respond. You might like go a little more than a little overboard. So it's a good idea if you're feeling overloaded, just to take a time out. We often don't take enough time out, and it could be for 10 minutes. Like speaking of the Fridays that was beyond a deadline, I get kind of frustrated because I'm sitting there. I've got a couple of hours to go, and I might have 2 paragraphs. And I had to write about a 2,000-word piece by 5 o'clock. And I often went a little over 5 o'clock. I would just get up and move around and wander around the newsroom, walk back to my desk. And sometimes that's all it was required with some physical movement without any particular purpose in mind. We can be so purpose driven that we don't realize that sometimes sitting, staring at the wall isn't necessarily a bad thing. And so that's a lot of stuff. And now for comic relief.
Wait, I have something to say about the Capricorns and trees.
Okay.
I've always associated that as well. Here's my Capricorn room. See the trees and all the logs in there?
Wow.
Because when you go, what?
How did you make that? That must have taken a while.
It's just my little science diorama. But the point is the trees get really dark. You know, the leaves have fallen off, and we were talking about how evergreens are standing. You know, but it's the tree trunks are that castor brown, and you know, so Capricorns are built like trees as well. They're built in the bones of the legs, and so they stand strong like trees as well. And I do think Capricorns are the trees of the zodiac. You know, psychically and literally, actually. So
I
sorry.
like that. Well, So I don't know, did you bring props?
I did.
I brought props.
Oh my God, you brought props. You're gonna get an A+ from your producer. What did you bring? Oh, your teddy bear in the castor brown color. That is a really good.
Brown. This is Fred, and this is Bob.
Oh, Bob looks like a Taurus bear, and Fred
Because
is
I
a.
know, but he's red like the Mars. He's got the red, like
Oh,
the
interesting.
red and the brown.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought
I
a
didn't plan
Capricorn
that
bear.
consciously.
Well,
Aren't
I'm
they
glad you brought
cute?
one Capricorn bear. They're so cute. Do they want some soup? Look, I brought soup with only green and red in it for Christmas.
Oh,
There's
there
only
you go.
and then I also thought I brought this Christmas tree that I could add to the soup since we are have Christmas in the
Why
mix.
would you ruin that nice piece of embroidery by putting it in a bowl of soup?
I don't know. Well,
I'm
it's
being too literal. I realize it was
it's
supposed
got
to
to
be
be
a
done.
tree.
It's got to be done. And here's a Christmas ornament that we can also put in the soup. So that's what
I
I
don't,
got.
neither Fred nor Bob nor I are really interested in eating that soup.
Dude, Fred's a Capricorn. He likes this soup.
From
He
a
likes Christmas
distance.
soup. Fine.
I, yeah, Fred looks a little grumpy now.
Well,
He's not
he's
sure.
a Capricorn, so he's kind of serious.
No, it's not just that he thinks I made fun of him. I
Oh,
didn't.
well, he's busy setting goals. He heard you talking about what's in the bowl and he decided he better set some goals.
Yeah. All right. So now we are at more of what's in the bowl. We better get a move on. Better get a move on. Um, where does the time flow? It always goes when we're having fun. This is
Saturn
it.
is the father of
You
time.
cannot put a person with moon in Aquarius and another person with moon in Pisces. In in time is not sometimes irrelevant.
Well, Saturn is the father of time, so you better follow the time in
No.
this episode.
Okay. So, oh, Papa Julie. Sometimes somewhere in this mess, okay, I can't find it. I thought I had it all organized. Okay. I just wanted to say one more thing about Christmas. Yeah, Christmas is going to be a highly charged day because lots of Capricorn energy with a moon in Pisces. So I would caution everybody to treat everyone with kindness and compassion on Christmas Day. And if somebody gives you a gift you don't like, if you wish to tell them that it's not your favorite thing, please find a way to say it. It might be a good year to give people gift cards. Uh, what the hell did I do with my Venus card? For God's sakes. So, as we're moving into this, so the major event of this Capricorn cycle is Venus and Mars. There's a Venus card, begin a new cycle. And how do they do that? Well, in their relationship to each other. In other words, once every two, I don't know what the exact um, number of months between times when Venus and Mars conjunct, but whenever they do, they begin a new cycle in their relationship with each other. And Venus and Mars are the two planets that we connect quite most strongly to relationships. And so whenever they begin a new cycle, you look at the sign that it's in because it tells you something about relationships, but not just that, but because, you know, okay, I had a bunch of cards with a bunch of things written on them. Okay, so it's the eternal dance between love and desire attraction and irritation. Because if when we're irritated by things, it's Mars. It's Mars. Um, Pleasing others and doing what you want. Um, do your expectations meet your actions? That didn't come out right. That doesn't sound right. Um, Venus is a lot about expectations because it's connected to what we value, and the things that we value lead to what we expect. And Mars isn't really tuned into that frequency. So when it just does. That's basically what it just does. And so whenever they line up together, it's an opportunity for those energies. And we could talk about it also being coming together of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And when I talk about this, I'm not talking about gender, I'm talking about energy. And so when they come together, it's a beginning point of a new cycle. And it's in Capricorn. So that's it's our intention, our not intention. Our default position is to think it's always all about relationships, but it's also about what we value, what's important to us, and how we achieve the things that are important to us. And then the sign of Capricorn, that gives it a very grounded, um, practical manifestation focus that it wouldn't necessarily otherwise have. Like the last time we had this conjunction, it was in July, August of 2023, and it was in Leo. So during that period of time, as far as relations, you would have seen a lot of focus on romance, but also it's about how to accomplish the things that you love. Because we always think of love, mostly in terms of people, but we don't really think about it in terms of what we value. So do I love what I do? And how am I going to expand that world of that creative energy? How am I going to and who am I going to partner with? Because Venus is a collaborative person. It doesn't mean she can't do anything by herself. It's just that she's very community minded. So now that it's in Capricorn, we'll be looking to what are the practical results of the things I create. Because creativity doesn't necessarily always have a practical conclusion. For example, so you can decide you need to have a bath, and you decide to have a really lovely Epsom salts bath, and it satisfies all your senses and everything. And I suppose it's in that way it's useful. But if we're thinking about things that are useful, we tend to have a very narrow perception of what that is. And so when this happens in Capricorn, it's going to be, what's the outcome? And what is the truth? Because Capricorn is not really good with fantasy or lies. Capricorn is very deeply connected to integrity. So when you're using those two energies come together, how do you express those things in a way that reflects your integrity? Because isn't Mars is not particularly moral. Would you agree, Andy?
Interesting. Well, yeah, I would say it's more impetuous and responds to aggression more than being
An
Saturnian.
impulse.
It seems very moral. Capricorn seems very moral.
Well, that's why Mars in Capricorn is the best expression, really, of that energy, because it does find a way to express all that get up and go, all that assertiveness in a way that has concrete consequences that are not totally self-centered. And
Yeah, Mars and Capricorn to be one of the least pathological Mars placements. I know it's exalted there, but it's like it really doesn't cause a lot of health problems, and it also doesn't cause a lot of behavior problems.
Well, that's because it's an opportunity for that energy to express itself positively with integrity and with consideration for the consequences.
Mm,
Because Mars, just the Mars basic energy is not really thinking about consequences. It's just thinking about doing,
hmm
just thinking about doing. So the interesting thing, so we'll just have a look at this. So here's the oops, air and fire. Air and fire go really, they're happy together. And then you put it in the sign of Capricorn. Now, in this instance, actually, Mars is stronger. So um, as you start to feel this energy, just realize initially you're likely to feel the Mars energy more, just the need to let's do something, let's make something without necessarily the Venus chipping in or weighing in saying, well, that's nice, but I don't care about that.
Interesting.
Right? Because Venus is very much invested in what it values, what it finds beautiful, you know, does it reflect what's important to me in life? Because
So
Venus,
could it be that Venus in Capricorn kind of beautifies the experience of doing the hard work of Mars in Capricorn?
well, how can we work together to get, well, it's the one that's going to try to collaborate. Meanwhile, Mars is running off down the road by itself. And the only reason that Venus can even catch up is because it's in Capricorn.
Hmm.
But together, this is a time of really, of you know, being clear that uh, in order to create stability in your life, neither Venus nor Mars should take ascendancy, that they need to find a way to work together. And Mars in Capricorn is actually open to that when it's not always open to it in other signs. Depends on the sign. And of course, we're talking about these things in isolation, and um, but it's important to understand the energy of the interplay of the energies, not the energies of the interplay, whatever, um, so that you can feel it. Like this is a very sensitive time, so feel what these things are like. And of course, everybody's going to have this. And the interesting thing about this is that this conjunction, this coming together happens with the sun as part of the equation. So again, a lot of drive. And if you can harness that drive, you can really set yourself down, going down a road that will have positive consequences, an opportunity to express exactly what matters to you and to do it in a way that you're proud of. And this particular cycle lasts until November of 2027. So I've got a lot of time to work with this energy.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, the cycle before Venus and Mars conjunct again.
Oh,
So
okay.
the whole cycle of they come together and then Venus moves ahead. So it tends to in the cycle, it's ahead of Mars. And essentially it goes around and comes back to Mars. Well, because Mars takes longer time to get around the zodiac than Venus does.
Hmm.
So during this period, and interestingly enough, the next conjunction happens in Capricorn too. So we're heading into like probably a 4-year period of really being able to work with this energy, of finding collaborative ways to create practical solutions to problems. And Mercury's in Capricorn there somewhere too, but it isn't close to these are all cozied up, snuggled up in bed together. No, don't know why I said that. Anyway, okie dokie, where are we at? Oh, good Lord. I
Can
better
I give
get
can I give an example of that?
in.
Well, so at the Moyer Press, we actually have elected to do some filming. A bunch of us are getting together on the East Coast to film a bunch of videos when the Sun, Venus, and Mars are conjunct in Capricorn because we want to do hard work on creative stuff. And so I love what you're saying of like it's all that coming together. That's a really potent energy for people. Like anyone who's watching, when the Sun, Venus, and Mars get together wherever it hits in your chart, that's a very potent pile up. And so it's a time to take action or really make something happen. I mean, wouldn't you think, Leslie?
Absolutely. So I did pick a couple of cards. These come from the Tree Magic deck that I have to go along with this cycle. And because we are uh, have some other stuff to do, we still have to talk about the moon. I'm just going to tell you which cards they were, and we're not going to pick a color card. The mahogany tree, which is confidence, Mars, and the cherry tree, which is vulnerability. So you might consider these words going forward. If I had more time, I might in my newsletter actually put some of the words on the card so people can see them. Okay, so let us move along. So, not going to take as much time to get through this because we are going to be talking about the first the full moon, uh, which is at 13 degrees of Cancer and is on January the 3rd. This is a highly reactionary full moon. And the potential always exists every year when we have the full moon in Cancer, which is the moon in Cancer and the sun in Capricorn. It has a tendency because, Cancer always thinks that Capricorn's a little harsh around the edges for it. So, and it can carry a bit of an aggressive tone, partly because the Mars is involved as well. So you just, so you're going to have to be careful during that not to blow things out of proportion. But there's a lot of drive and a lot of energy in this. And if you take this time as a time for nourishing yourself and looking at your relationships in a really truthful way, and your connections and how things are going on in your world, it's a time of acknowledging emotional truth. It's not necessarily a time of acknowledging. So it's it can be very much an internal thing. That doesn't mean it doesn't feel like it's not happening outside your skin. So if you get in that space, just remember, take a breath and find, it's funny because when you're talking about that, the Capricorn end is likely to ask you to suppress what you're feeling and just deal with what's practical. This is why this is often a highly reactionary full moon, and this one has reasons why it's even more reactionary. So just remember that to pay attention to any of the feelings that start burbling below the surface and don't ignore them. Take time to just sit with how you feel. Because the purpose of this is to balance out, the inner world and the outer world. And Capricorn, as I said before, is pretty focused on the external world. That's its job. But the Cancer world is very sensitive to everything that goes on around it. And because this is at a critical degree, it amplifies. And then the moon is conjunct Jupiter. So, no. So there's a battle between the emotional and the practical. Objectivity is required. And there may not be very much of it, but try your best. Try your best. Okay, and then the new moon is, again, we have another new moon that is part of what we astrologers call a stellium, which means that grouped with a at least 3 to 4 planets. In this case, it's 4 again, and the opportunity here is to take the wisdom and experience of your trip through Capricorn and use it to build a deeper inner structure going forward. Hi, Marlene. Um, so, oh, and there, I do want to quickly share this quote, and it went with the Venus Mars. Sorry about that. And it comes from John Steinbeck. People need responsibility. They resist assuming it, but they cannot get along without it. I thought was very powerful. Um, so in this particular stellium, we have, because this is another new moon that's at very late degrees. So we have the Sun, Mars, Mercury, and the Moon. So that's a lot going on, all in the sign of Capricorn. And the Mercury and the Mars are at critical degrees. So again, we have another moon cycle with important planets at critical degrees. And what in astrology, those critical degrees pack a bit more of a punch. And they're connected, those critical degrees are connected to the cycles of the moon. So whenever you have, like for instance, the full moon, the moon was at a critical degree. In this one, it's Mercury and Mars. But whenever you have a phase of the moon with critical degrees that are connected to the phases of the moon, that makes that lunar cycle even more important. So just be aware that there's an opportunity here to carry forward any insights or inspirations that you've had since that full moon or since before that full moon. Oh my God. This is a lot of work. I shouldn't say. Well, see, it's supposed to be a lot of work because it's Capricorn.
I mean, the Capricorn new moon will be powerful for setting goals. Like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, because you will have process and stuff. Because whenever in this in the cycle of full moons, you have thanks, Shona. Um, oh, for God's sakes. Whatever I was going to say fell out of my brain. Um, Whenever you come to the end of a cycle, there are things that you're meant to carry forward. But whenever you have a full moon that includes sun and earth and the moon and water, it is always a time to emotionally grow. And sometimes, especially on this planet, we want to keep anything emotional away from us. And so those full moons are in water are always really important for us remaining in touch with our feelings. And if at that full moon at a critical degree in Cancer, we draw on our emotional reserves and our emotional wisdom, by the time we get to the new moon, we've really got a strong internal structure upon which to begin to make change as the sun moves into Aquarius and threatens to shake things up. Okay. Okay, so I did have 2 soul coaching cards for the lunar for the moons. We have about 9 minutes left. So truth was the one for the full moon. And that's interesting because in the full moon, you can always see things clearly, and that is when the truth often emerges. And it says, I live my truth. And I share that with you. And the truth is, I just use that word. We all respond to things differently, and I want you to honor whatever your response is, either looking at this card or hearing the word, whatever. And then, interestingly enough, for the new moon, the word is focus. And it says, all of my thoughts are directed towards my highest good, which is very interesting because, of course, in the new moon phase is a seeding phase. Okay. Any comment? No?
I love what you're saying about how the full moon basically would be a nice time for setting emotional goals because it's the moon in Cancer, goals for your family, goals for your home. Um, and you'd want to look to the houses of the Capricorn Cancer opposition in your chart. And then the new moon is more setting the more goals, kind of business goals and things like that. But
But I
yeah,
said before, having a goal is not the same as accomplishing it. So
yeah.
we all have to begin somewhere. And of course, whenever we're talking about the cycles of the moon, it's important to remember that they're connected to the sun. It's always the tandem. So of course, when the full moon is in Cancer, you have the opportunity to access that sun in Capricorn and set some goals.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we're at Astro Bites. We finally got there.
Good job.
So thanks. So just be clear that I'm going to share a word that I essentially psychically downloaded with a little bit of reference to astrology for each of the sun signs. And you can use this word in whatever way you like, either as a talisman, a protection, like if your circuits are feeling overloaded and you can focus your energy on this word, you can use it in meditation. You can make something that reflects that word. And I say this because Andy loves to make things, and I'm sure she's not the only one. So the word for Aries is restrained, and I wonder why. That Sun Mars conjunction in Capricorn for Aries is, yeah, yeah. So Taurus is manifest, Gemini is breathe. It doesn't always like all its circuits to get overloaded with emotional, practical things. That's not always its idea of a form of entertainment. I failed to get you to laugh.
It's too serious in Capricorn. I'm not allowed to laugh. I'm just
Anyway,
playing the role. I'm just playing the role of the time to this of the
being the
season.
producer now.
I'm
Okay,
making meta.
Cancer is truth. Leo is harvest. Virgo is create. Libra is ground. Scorpio is regroup. Sagittarius is dream. Capricorn is peace. Aquarius is evaluate. And Pisces is share. Now I have to tell this story because it's so funny. Because I typed them out and then I put them on a little card like I always do. And I laughed because when I went to put it down, I'd forgotten to put one for Capricorn. I skipped right over it, which is your every Aquarian's response to the sign of Aquarius. I respect
I'm
them.
laughing.
What?
Darn it, I'm laughing.
So anyway, and we have always at the end the wrap it up segment. It's not a phase, it's a segment. So because we really need something to laugh at. Besides what I just said about how come Aquarius feels. Oh, now she's glowering. I do love that word though.
It's called resting Capricorn face.
I thought Capricorn was resting bitch face.
That's what I'm saying. I was being G-rated.
I said Scorpio. They could do each but they have their own kind. We could do a whole segment on what resting bitch face is for every sign.
Stop making me laugh. I'm
Okay, so here's the quote just as we come to a close. And yeah, Christmas sweaters are only acceptable. Can't even read it without laughing. Christmas sweaters are only acceptable as a cry for help. And that was Andy Borowitz that said that. And don't ask me who he is. I'm sure he must be a comedian. Anyways, thanks, guys, for joining me today. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. And until the next time, be true to yourself.